I do have something that I'd like to say right now. 6 months ago, this station, News Talk 1010, it conducted a poll. And that poll suggested that yours truly would fare very well in a race for mayor of Toronto. And for the last 6 months, there has barely been a day in my life without somebody on public transit or at the grocery store or amongst my colleagues in the media asking me, are you going to do it? I will not be running for office this year. Not for the mayor's office and not for any other office. But I want to say thank you. I'm one of the most blessed people in this city, and I know it. And the experience of having people come up to me day after day after day to talk about their concerns, to talk about what they want to see in the city of Toronto, and how we could work together on that, it's been a deep, deep honor and privilege for me. And I know what it would mean to so many of us in this city to have a real political and ideological alternative, to have a well-funded and well-resourced mayoral candidate to fight for those of us who are consistently left behind in this city. But it's not my time for that. At least, it's not my time right now. I want to ask you something. Were you only excited for me? Because there is still an election happening this fall. And there will be many candidates who believe in fighting for those who've been left behind in our city. Will you volunteer for those people as you would have for me? Will you donate to them as you promised to do for me if I ran? Because is this really just about having another option to check off on the ballot box? If so, that's not good enough. Council candidates running this fall will also fight for the people that I fight for, the homeless, the poor, those in social housing, those who can't afford transit or childcare or healthy food, those targeted by our police. Will you find and support those candidates too? Because that is what our city needs from you, and for what it's worth, it's what I think you should do. I want to add something else, though. It's looking very much like our current mayor, John Tory, who you heard last hour on News Talk 1010. It's looking very much like he is now going to run for re-election in the fall without a serious challenger. And I know that that's why a lot of people wanted me to run. But whether or not John Tory faces a serious challenge in the fall, I want to be clear that he is not here for all of us. John Tory loves to use words like diversity and multiculturalism. But he is here primarily for the rich, white, property-owning residents of this city. They are his base. The biggest campaign promise John Tory has kept since he took office in 2014 has been to keep taxes low. That's his biggest concern. It requires no work on his part, and it has allowed Toronto to become an even more unequal city than when John Tory took office. But John Tory has broken enough promises. John Tory promised to build a subway network, and now he's defending $3 billion for one stop. John Tory promised to end police carding. The practice continues. John Tory promised to freeze transit fares in 2015. He didn't. Tory promised he would implement real penalties for politicians who abuse their privileges. He promised that they would be held accountable, and he has done nothing on that front either. But honestly, where I'm sitting, Tory's biggest failure has been to abandon the most marginalized people in our city. John Tory signed a sanctuary city policy early last year, a reaffirmation of policies that we already had in Toronto, saying that we believe that all residents, no matter their immigration status, should have equitable access to city services. But the Toronto Police continue every day in Toronto to violate our sanctuary city policy by documenting people's immigration status and reporting them to the Canada Border Services Agency. Tory's refusal to stand up for the diversity, as he calls it, that he loves to praise so often, to actually protect people who are black, who are indigenous, who are disabled, who are poor, who are queer, who are Muslim. This, to me, is his big failing.